Hello everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios, and today we're going to be starting our crochet along, which is going to be to teach you how to do the different mosaic crochet patterns, some of which I'm showing here. But mosaic crochet is really kind of an organic crochet. You can create your own patterns. You can decide to use these patterns in any way that you would like, as far as you don't have to start with the same pattern that I'm starting with. A few videos in, you could change it up and start with that pattern and mix it all up depending on which project you're going to do. So you can use this to do things like baby blankets or large size blankets, pillows, purses, project bags. I mean, the amount of things you can use this is just endless. So it's really up to you what size project you're going to make in this case. But we're going to be chaining in multiples of 10 to get started out. So whatever design you decide to do as far as the actual finished project, you're just going to chain in multiples of 10, and then we're going to start doing the various patterns. And we're going to start out doing a pattern a week, or a pattern of video, I should say. So here's one sample I was working on last night. Here's another one from the other day. And here's one of the blankets that I've done, which shows quite a few different patterns that you can do. And I basically was winging it as I went, just doing different things along the way. And I'm going to teach you guys how to do that as well. So just to give you an idea of what some mosaic crochet will look like. Very textured, kind of geometric, really, really pretty stuff. If you've ever done Apache tears, that is a mosaic crochet to me. Apache tears, that particular stitch, is very much used often in doing mosaic crochet. Here's some of a sample right here. That's some Apache tears, just done in a longer format. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You're going to need, I'm using size 4 yarn today, but I've also got some size 3 that I'm going to work into the project. I recommend that you use size 3 or size 4 yarn for this, and you're going to use a 5.5 millimeter hook. You can use a 5 millimeter if you want a much tighter project, but I'm going to use the 5.5 millimeter, and this is perfect for scraps. This entire blanket that you're seeing here was all done from scraps. So I just had yarn on hand that I didn't have enough of for a large project, mixed them all together. So you can pick out your colors. You do not have to do these the patterns in a solid color. You can mix it up. You can have it done. You can mix it from row to row and have it transition in color. You can do it in just completely contrasting colors. You don't have to have a neutral. I'm going to be working with a white yarn today as my basically to do my patterns in. So for me, I'm going to be using the same color working on up, but you do not have to do that. It's completely up to you, and you can get completely creative with that. So we're going to go ahead and pause here and get started. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to use this as an example piece. You can start either with the color that you're going to be using to pop out your shapes here, or you can start with the color that's going to be the centers. It's completely up to you which way you go with this. I'm going to be starting with the accent color, basically is what we'll call it, color B, and then color A is going to be white for me, and that's what's going to form my shapes when I'm doing my drop downs. So we'll go ahead and get started. For me, like I said, we're going to chain in multiples of 10 plus 5 or 6 at the end, I'm sorry. So chain in multiples of 10 plus 6 at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You just simply need to do a slip knot. Go ahead and move that out of the way. So I go ahead and do my slip knots like this. I take my working yarn over here. This is the tail over here. And I move it over into position, and then I pull back, pinch and pull back to create my slip knot. So I'm going to go ahead and start chaining. So to do the chain, you have your slip knot already on your hook, and then you grab your yarn and pull through, and that forms your first chain. Here's my second, third, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And now I'm going to chain my 6 at the end. You're going to go ahead and pause and work on down until you've got the desired size of project that you're wanting to make, and then make sure that you chain the additional 6 at the end. So you're working in multiples of 10, and you're going to chain an additional 6 at the very end, and then you'll meet back up with me and we'll start doing row 2. So you're meeting back up with me. You got your foundation chain ready, and we're going to go ahead and we are going to be working in single crochets in the back loop only. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to go into this very first chain. So I'm going to skip this first chain. I'm going to go right here into the second, and I'm just going to work in the very back loop, that top loop back there. That's all I'm working in. So I'm not going into both, and I'm going to pull up and do a single crochet. And that's what I'm going to be doing all the way down this row. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the very next back loop only, or if you look and see your project, you're just working in one loop. And that's how it's going to be throughout this. So you're going to go ahead and work in that same exact manner all the way down, working a single crochet in the back loop only all the way down this row. And then you're going to meet up with me at the end. You're going to be doing a single crochet in that very last stitch. So we'll be meeting up there to finish out your row. All right, so we're meeting up here at the end of the row, and I've got 2 stitches left to work in. So I'm just going to go ahead and work in this next one just as I have been. And then in the very last stitch in the row, we're going to go in, and we want to go under the V. We want to make sure that we get in both of those loops like you traditionally would, because that'll make putting on your border a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and do a single crochet just as we normally would, working right under the 2 loops under the V. So that is how you end out each and every row. So for me, I ended up with 35 stitches. We had chained in multiples of 10 plus 6 at the end. And then we skipped 1 and worked into that second. So it brought us to an odd number of stitches. And that's one of the things that you want. For me, each time that I've worked on a project, it just seems to work out better when I have an odd number of stitches. So I've got 35 stitches. You are going to have the number of stitches you had plus 5 basically at the end. So to go ahead and end out, this is the one unfun thing about this type of crochet, the mosaic crochet, is we have to go ahead and clip our yarn down here. We're going to have a lot of tails, and you are going to have a lot of weaving in at the end. That is the only downside. So here I am at the end, and I like to chain up 2, and then I am going to clip my yarn, and you want to leave a decent tail. It doesn't have to be extremely long, but you do want to leave a decent tail so you have something to work with on weaving it in. And then I pull up, and I'm going to cinch down, and that is how I end out. That way I never have any unraveling. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to add back that same exact color again for me, because I need 3 rows, and then I'm going to begin 3 rows of this, color B. I need 3 rows of it, and then I'm going to start doing the white in here. So we're going to go ahead and go under the V, and make sure you go under the V, because we're going to start doing a single crochet at the beginning of the row, and just like we're ending with a single crochet at the end that is worked under the V, under the 2 little loops. So that way we have an easy way to put on a border. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my yarn, and I'm going to add it back on. It's going to be the same for you, and we will unfortunately be clipping yarn every row. So I do recommend that as you work this up and you finish each section, each pattern, go ahead and sew in your ends. That way you do not have a billion ends to sew in at the very end. And I'm having to untangle some yarn. That's what I'm doing over here. So let me just pause real quick, and I'll come back and add this on. Alright, so I am back, and I've got the slip knot already on my hook. And we're going to go ahead and we've got our hook in underneath the 2 loops, underneath that V. And I've got my slip knot now. I've put it on my hook, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring that up. And then I'm going to grab both the tail and the working yarn and chain 1. And then I'm going to go back in underneath both of those loops. And I'm going to go ahead and let that tail fall on top of my work. And now I'm going to pull up a loop and do a single crochet. So just like that. So now I'm going to be going back here, working into the back loops only. So I'm working into that back loop. I've got the tail. You can go ahead and work over your tail. You kind of locked it in place. You can work over your tail. And I like to leave a little bit hanging back so I can do a knot. That's just me personally. You can do it however you wish, but you're going to do the same thing that you did in the last row. You're just going to be going into those back loop only and doing a single crochet all the way down. So you're going to do the same thing, and then we're going to start with our next color on the following row. So you're going to go ahead and work on down, same exact as you have been, working into the back loop only, and we'll meet back up at the end and do that single crochet at the end one more time together. So we're going to go ahead and pause here, work on down, doing a single crochet in the back loop only, all the way down, just making sure you guys can see where I'm going into that back loop only. So look at your V's and select the one in the back, and go ahead and work in that same way. So we're going to go ahead and pause here and meet me at the end of your row. And we're here at the end of our row. So we're going to go ahead and work under that V, going into both of those loops, and we're going to do our last single crochet. And then for me, I'm going to chain up 2, and I'm going to go ahead and clip my yarn. Now we're going to be going over and transitioning into our color A for me, because I consider the part that I'm going to be using, I'm going to do the same color on throughout for my shapes, to pop out my shapes. So to me, this is my color A. It's the one I'm going to use the most of. So I'm going to go ahead and get a slip knot going. We're going to come back down here to the front of our row, and I'm going to go under both loops there at the very beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to grab both the tail and working yarn and chain 1. Now I'm going to go back down into that same stitch, same exact one, and I'm going to pull up a loop. And now I'm going to grab my yarn and pull through all 3. It looks like 3 on there. I'm going to pull through all of those. So now that's my first one, first stitch of this row. So now I'm going to work into the next 2 back loop only. So 1, over here is number 2, so next 2 back loop. And now in the 4th, I'm going to do a drop down. So right here is the next stitch. And if you look directly below it, we have this front loop that's left from us working in the back loops. So I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook, and I'm going to go, basically I'm doing a drop down double crochet. So I'm going to go directly down here to this front loop, and I'm going to turn my hook just like this so I can grab it up. And I'm going to grab my working yarn over here, grab and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to grab again and pull through 2, grab again and pull through 2. So I've just done my first drop down, is what I call them. So that double crochet is laying on top of the work. If you take a look, you can see it adds a dimension to it. Now here, to make sure that you are not working into the stitch that is taken up by this double crochet, you can always take a peek back here. You're going to make sure you don't work in that stitch. That is being taken up by our double crochet. Hopefully I can turn this a little bit better. You can see what I mean. So you're going to be skipping that stitch right there because our double crochet rests right over that. So you're just going to make sure, if you ever unsure if you're going into the wrong stitch, just slide your work back and you can make sure you're skipping one. And we're going to go in the very next one. And we're going to work, in this case, we're going to work 8 more single crochets in the back loop only. So there's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. Now I'm going to do another drop down. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook. I'm going to go directly down. Here's the stitch that I would be working into. I'm going to just slide right down here to this front loop on the front of it, 1 row below. And I'm going to slide my hook under, grab my yarn and pull up a loop, grab my yarn and pull through 2, grab my yarn and pull through 2. And you can see you've got that 1 stitch back there that this double crochet is covering. Now I'm going to insert into the very next stitch, and I'm going to go right there and do my 8 single crochets in the back loop only. So you're going to be doing 8 single crochets in the back loop only, and then 1 drop down double crochet all the way down your row until you get at the end. So you're going to go ahead and work in the same exact manner. And I'm going to work along with you. So I've got 4. Here's number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 8. And now I'm going to be dropping down. This is my 9th stitch right here. So I'm going to drop down, and you want to make sure you're not stretching your work. You want to make sure that you're not coming over here and grabbing this loop. You want to go directly down, just slide your hook straight down, turn so that you can grab up that front loop only, and then you're going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. You can take a peek back there. We're going to be skipping that stitch, going into the very next one. It's right there beside it. We're going to go into that, and we're going to do 8 more back loop only single crochets. There's 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, and now we're here, this 9th stitch. We're going to wrap our yarn around our hook, and we're going to go right down here, slide down into that front loop, and then we're going to grab our yarn, pull up our loop, grab our yarn and pull through 2, grab our yarn and pull through 2. Now we just fold it forward. We're going to be skipping that stitch right there. We're skipping that one and going here into this next. And we're going to continue doing our back loop only single crochets. For me, I'm at the end of my row, so I'm doing 3 back loop only single crochets, and then I'm going to be ending with my single crochet that goes under both of the loops. We're going to work directly under the V to do the very last stitch in the row. So you're going to continue on in the same way, doing 8 back loop only single crochets. In your 9th stitch, you're going to be dropping down, doing this front loop single crochet that goes to the previous row. So we're going to skip over an entire row and come down here to this. This is why we needed to work up this way and have that many rows. So you're going to go ahead and work in the same exact way all the way down, and then you're going to meet back up with me when you're ready to go ahead and move on to your next row. I'm just going to be chaining up 2 and clipping my yarn. I'm going to cinch that down, and now I'm going to go ahead and grab my yarn again, and I'm going to add on another row. I'm going to make sure that I'm going under both the loops here at the very front of the row. If you get too tight with it, it's kind of hard to get in there, but you can do it. And I'm going to go ahead and grab and pull up a loop. I'm going to grab both of the little working tail, the tail and the working yarn, and chain 1. Go back down into that same exact stitch, going right there in that first one. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up my loop to do my single crochet. Grab and pull through all the loops that I have on my hook. And then I'm going to start working in the back loop only again. So we're going to work in that same exact manner on down this entire row. We're actually not going to be doing any drop downs on this particular row. We're just going to work a entire row of single crochets in the back loop only on this one. So you're just going to work back loop only all the way down. No drop downs, so no double crochet drop downs on this row. So this is a very, very easy row. So we're just going to work in that exact manner on down. Doing a single crochet in the back loop only. Just like so. So you can go ahead and pause here. Meet back up with me when you have completed your row, and we'll move on to the next row. Remember, at the very end, you're going to make sure you do a single crochet under both loops, under the V, on the very last stitch. That's the only thing you need to remember for this row. Straight down, all the way down, doing a single crochet in the back loop only. Alright, so we're meeting back up, ready to move on to our next row. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my color A, which is the main color, the color I'm using to form my shapes. And I'm going to go ahead and add it on. So as you can see, I'm going under both loops. So we need this first stitch to be a single crochet. I'm going to chain up 1 each and every time, go back down into the same exact stitch, and pull up a loop and finish out my single crochet. Now we're going to work into the back loop in the very next stitch. And then in this next stitch, we're going to be doing a drop down again. So now is where we're going to be connecting rows. So we've got 2 stitches, and in the third right here, we're going to wrap our yarn and we're going to slide down and do a drop down double crochet. So we're going to slide right down, and you'll see right there is a front loop, and you can grab it up. Let me do that with you one more time. Make sure you know exactly where you're going here. Here's the next stitch. Come directly down, and there is a loop. We're going to grab and pull that up. Now we're going to grab our yarn, pulling up a loop. You don't want to do tight on these. You want to keep them kind of loose. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure your yarn is wrapped around your hook. You want to come down here. You want to slide just straight down on the stitch you're going to work in. Grab up that loop. Grab your yarn and pull up a loop. Grab your yarn and pull through 2. Grab your yarn and pull through 2. And don't pull it tight. You want it to be nice and loose, where it's going to grab down here and grab that stitch and lay nice and flat over the top. So now in the very next stitch, which is directly above our last drop down, we're just going to do a back loop only single crochet. And now in this very next stitch, we're going to go ahead and wrap our yarn. We're going to drop down again. So we're going to go directly down, and you can see it's right there beside your last drop down. You want to grab that loop, pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So you're doing your double crochet in your front loop, and that is what your work's going to look like. So now we're going to continue on down, doing our back loop only. Make sure that you are not scrunching your work over. You don't want to accidentally work into the stitch. The double crochet that you just did is covering that stitch. So we're going to go here in the back loop of the very next stitch, and we're going to keep working just like we have been, doing our single crochets in the back loop only until we get over here to our next drop down. So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. So you're going to do 6 of your back loop only single crochet. So there's number 4 for me. Here's number 5. And here's number 6. Now we're right here. We want to do our drop down in the 7th. Here's the 7th stitch. We're going to drop down here to the previous row to this white section for me. And we're going to pick up that loop. We're wrapped to do a double crochet. So we're going to draw up a loop, pull through 2, and pull through 2. So you're going to be doing your double crochets on the 7th stitch on this row, leading up to. And then we're going to have 1 single crochet in the back loop only. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to do our double crochet. So I'm wrapped for my double crochet. Here's the very next stitch. I'm dropping down to this little loop below, and that's the loop I'm going to grab up. And I'm going to grab my yarn and pull up a loop, keeping that loose. Grab my yarn and pull through 2. Grab my yarn and pull through 2. Now, as you can see here, this is what we're going to be doing all the way down. I'm going to check and make sure that I'm going to go into the very next stitch. So I'm going to do 6 single crochets, 1 back loop only, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then my 7th stitch is going to be a double crochet drop down. So we're going to go right there underneath, sliding underneath that loop, pulling up a loop. Don't go tight. Pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we're going to go into the very next stitch with a single crochet back loop only. And now we're going to drop down again. So we're going to wrap our yarn, and we're going to be ready to do our double crochet. So we're going to slide down, find that loop, pull it up, and then we're going to pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Check and make sure you're going to skip this stitch, go into the very next one right there, and you're going to go back loop only, 6 single crochets, just like you've been doing. So this is going to be how you work this entire row. You're going to do this entire row in the exact same manner all the way down. And then you'll be meeting back up with me when you've finished out your row and you're ready to move on to your next row. So for me, I'm just going to finish out my row with you guys. I've done 6 back loop only single crochets. I'm going to wrap my yarn, get ready to do my double crochet. And I'm going to go right here, drop down, grab up that loop, and grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. I'm going to do my single crochet in the back loop only in the very next stitch. And then I'm going to wrap my yarn and do my double crochet again. And drop down, grabbing that loop. And grab my yarn and pull up a loop. Grab my yarn and pull up a loop, or pull through 2. Grab and pull through 2. That's going to finish it out. Don't get super tight on those. That's the main thing you got to remember, is don't get crazy tight on those stitches. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish out my row. working 2 more single crochets in the back loop only, and then in my very last one I'm going to do a traditional double crochet under both of those loops. For me, I'm going to chain up 2 and clip my yarn. And you guys are going to be able to finish out your project and meet back up with me on the next row so we can move on doing some more double crochet drop downs. So here's what your work is starting to look like, and we're going to go ahead and get started on our next row. I've got my slip knot ready. I'm going to go ahead and insert under the V on the very first stitch in the row. And I'm going to grab my little slip knot and tighten that down. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up that loop. And then I'm going to grab both the working yarn and the tail and chain up 1. I'm going to let my tail go ahead and fall. And I'm going to go back down into that same exact stitch. And I'm going to grab my yarn and pull up a loop. Grab my yarn and pull through all the loops on my hook, doing a single crochet. Now I'm going to be doing 2 back loop only single crochet. So I'm going to go in that very next stitch, pull the loop and pull through 2. Go into the very next stitch and do the same thing, single crochet in the back loop only. And now we're here in our center of our drop down double crochets from the previous row. So we're going to go ahead and do another double crochet drop down right here in between these 2. So we're going to grab our yarn, wrap it around our hook, and we're going to go right here's our stitch. We're going to slide down. There is the loop we want to pick up. So we're going to grab and pick up that loop. We're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, keeping it nice and loose. You don't want to get super tight. Oops, I split my yarn. Let me go back under. Grab and pull up a loop. You don't want to get it tight. You don't want to have tight tension here. I'm going to grab and pull through 2. Grab and pull through 2. Now if you take a look, you are starting to form your shape already. So in the very next stitch, we're going to do our back loop only, single crochet. And we're going to continue on down. And we're going to do that same thing all the way down until we get to the center point in between the previous row double crochet drop down. So we're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single crochets in the back loop only. So there's my third. 8 more of those, I should say. So you're going to work just like that all the way down until we get to the center point here in between our 2 double crochet drop downs. So I've made it to that point. So that's what we're looking like. And we're right here. Our next stitch is here in the center of our 2 drop down double crochets. So we're going to go right down there to the green for me, or the mint, and I'm going to pull up that loop, get right underneath it, and I'm going to grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2, doing my double crochet. So that's going to be the way this row is worked, the entire row. You're going to work down doing back loop only single crochets until you get right there in between the 2 double crochet drop downs from the previous row, and that's where you're going to be dropping down. So this is pretty easy to do watching TV and all that sort of thing. You just kind of watch out for where that center point on this row. So you're going to work in the same exact manner on down your entire row, doing your back loop only single crochets, and then when you get into that center point, that's where you're going to do your drop down double crochet. So I've made it again to another center point. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap my yarn. I'm going to go right down, there's my stitch, so I'm going to go right down underneath it to the previous row and grab that loop up. I'm going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2, making sure I'm not keeping my tension tight. We want to have looser tension so that we don't draw the stitch up. We don't want it to pull up like that. We want it to stay where it is just dropping down naturally, covering up that white. So you're going to go ahead and pause here and work in the exact same manner all the way down your row. And we'll meet back up when we're going back over to our color A, which for me is going to be the white color. We're going to go over to that and in the next row, and we're going to work on some more drop down double crochets as we're forming the pattern that we're making. So we're working on this one right here. We're forming this. So you're going to keep working in the same manner, and we'll meet back up for the next row. All right, so we're back at our next row, and I've already got my hook inserted underneath the V, and I've got my slip knot on my hook. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that loop. I'm going to grab and chain one, then I'm going to go back down that same exact stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and finish out doing my single crochet. So I'm going to pull up a loop, grab and pull through two. In this case, it looks like three. So now what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to go ahead and immediately go into doing one of my drop down double crochets. So if you take a look at your work, let me lay this down flat. The next point right here, this next stitch is right here. When you drop down, you're going to be right beside that double crochet from the previous row that we dropped down on. So we're going to go ahead and get set up to do a double crochet drop down. So I've wrapped my yarn around my hook, and here's the next stitch. So I'm just going to slide down to that previous row and grab up that loop. So I'm slid underneath it. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull up a loop, keeping it loose. Grab and pull through two, grab and pull through two. And that is forming our shape. So now I'm going to do a total of 3 more back loop only single crochet. So I'm going to go into the back loop only, do a single crochet, back loop only, single crochet, and third back loop only, single crochet. Now if you take a look, this next stitch, it's going to line up where we're working right there beside our last drop down. So I'm going to go ahead and do my double crochet drop down again. So I've grabbed up that loop. I'm going to grab and pull up a loop. I'm going to grab and pull through two. I'm going to grab and pull through two. So now we're going to work over here to our next drop down section. So we're going to make sure we're going to skip that stitch right there. This is our double crochets covering that. We're going to go into the very next stitch, and we're going to do our back loop only single crochet, another back loop only single crochet. It's number 2. Here's number 3. Here's number 4. And now in this 5th stitch, we're going to be doing our double crochet drop down. So here's the 5th one. Slide right down. There's my loop that I need to pull up. I'm going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through two, grab and pull through two. So now, just like we did before, I'm going to make sure I'm going into the very next stitch, and I'm going to do 3 back loop only single crochets. 1, 2, and number 3. And here in this 4th stitch, I'm going to do my drop down. So I'm going to go right down, grabbing up that loop. I'm going to grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So I'm doing my double crochet again. Now I'm going to make sure I'm not going to go work into that stitch. I'm going to go in the very next one, and I'm going to do a back loop only single crochet. There's 1. Here is number 2, number 3, and number 4. And then in that 5th stitch, that's where we're going to do our double crochet drop down. So I'm right there at that 5th stitch. And if you look, that's the 5th. I'm just sliding directly down and grabbing up that loop. And I'm going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. And then I'm going to do my 3 single crochet in the back loop only, number 2 and number 3. And now I'm going to do my double crochet drop down here in this 4th. Right there's the 4th. I'm going to go directly down that row. I'm wrapped to do a double crochet. I'm going to grab and pull up a loop. I'm going to grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that's how you're going to be working this entire row. So you're going to work in the same exact manner all the way down the rest of this row. So you're just going to be working just like you have been. And go ahead and pause here and meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to the very next row. For me, I'm just finishing out real quick because I'm right here at the end of my swatch that I'm making for you guys to teach you how to do this. So I'm just going to finish up. If you're still watching with me, that is. If you haven't paused yet. And my row is done. Single crochet under both loops in the very last stitch. Chain up 2 and clip your yarn. Pull through that loop and cinch down. This is what your work's looking like. Now in this next row, we're going to be doing a lot more drop downs. So we're going to, if you're working with scraps, you're going to need to make sure you've got enough to do that row. Otherwise, you're going to want to go ahead and switch colors. And for me, I'm going to be changing to a slightly darker color. And I'm going to go ahead and get that on my hook. Get my slip knot ready. Come up here to the very first stitch and insert into that very, very first stitch. I'm going to pull up a loop. Go ahead and chain 1, go back down that same exact loop. And I'm going to pull through all that. So now for you guys, you're going to be just like I am. You've worked in the very first stitch and you can't drop down before it because there's nothing left right here at this double crochet. We're going to work a single crochet in the back loop only on top of that. And now here in the very next stitch, we're going to go ahead and wrap and do our double crochet drop down. So we're here at this stitch and we're going to drop down to that previous row and we're going to place a double crochet drop down right there on top of that stitch. And now here in the very next stitch, we're going to do the same thing. We're right here. This is our next stitch. It's directly over our double crochet from the previous. We're grabbing at the front loop of our previous double crochet drop down. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing in the very next stitch. Here's our next stitch. We're going to go down here and grab up our loop, and we're doing another double crochet drop down. So that's how that's looking for you. And now here on the top of this double crochet drop down, we're going to work in the back loop only and do a single crochet. Now here right beside our single crochet right here on this double crochet drop down, and we're going to do our single crochet in the back loop only in the very next stitch. And then we're going to do the very next 2 stitches, we're going to do our double crochet drop down. So there's 1, and then in this very next stitch we're going to go down and do our double crochet drop down. And then we're going to do our back loop only single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So next 2 stitches are the back loop only single crochet. Now we're going to do our 3 double crochet drop downs in a row. We're here in the center of our pattern. So we're going to do that 3 times. There's 1, there's 2, and here is number 3. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets in the back loop only in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, and here is 2. Now we're going to do 2 of our double crochet drop downs, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, and here's number 2. Now we're going to do 2 of our single crochet back loop only in the next 2 stitches. And now we're going to do 3 of our double crochet drop downs in the center of our work that we have here. So that is what we're looking like, and that's how you're going to work down the entire row. You're going to work in this exact same manner all the way down the rest of your row, and you can pause here and meet back up with me when you finish out this row to move on to the next. I'm going to do my 2 single crochets in the back loop only in the next 2 stitches. Now I'm going to do the next 2 stitches. I'm going to do a double crochet drop down, and then the repeat starts all over again. You're going to do your 2 single crochets in the back loop only, and then you're going to do your 3 double crochet drop downs here in the center of your pattern. And there's only 3 stitches in there, so it makes it pretty easy to keep up with. There's only 3 stitches available to work into, I mean. So we're going to just work on down, and I am here at the end of my row. So I'm going to be working my back loop only single crochet, 2 of those, and then I'm going to do my traditional single crochet under the V here in the very last stitch. And my row is done. And that is what your work is looking like. Alright, so here we are back, and I'm going to go ahead and start out my row just like I have been each and every time. I'm working under the V and going in there and doing my traditional single crochet right there in the very first stitch. So just like so. And then because it's at the very beginning of the row, we don't want to do a drop down here. It'll make it difficult when we're having to add on our border. So we're just going to be working, in this case, we're going to go ahead and work doing single crochet in the back loop only until we get over here. And at that point, we're going to be able to do our next drop down. So we're going to go ahead and do a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in our 6th stitch we're going to be able to do our drop down. So we're going to do our double crochet drop down, going down there and grabbing that loop up. That's what our work is looking like. Now we're going to do our single crochet back loop only in the next 2 stitches. Now we're going to be able to do our double crochet drop down. Just like so. And now across these stitches here in the center of our pattern, we're going to be doing our single crochet in the back loop only. So there's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So 5 of those, and then we're going to do our double crochet drop down. So we're going to be working in between those previous drop downs that we have. Those double crochets, we're going to work right there. That's what our work is looking like. So you're going to go ahead and do your 2 single crochet in the back loop only, and then we're going to do that drop down again. We're right here at this point, so we're going to go ahead and do our double crochet drop down. Now we're going to do 5 single crochet in the back loop only, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then that 6th stitch is going to be our double crochet drop down. You're going to keep working the same exact manner all the way down your row. Next 2 stitches is going to be single crochet back loop only. There's 1, here's 2, and then we're going to do our double crochet drop down, and then 5 of your single crochet in the back loop only across the center here of your pattern, and then a double crochet drop down. So we're going to keep working that same manner. You can go ahead and pause here, work on down, and meet me back up when you're ready to start your very next row. Make sure here at the end, for those who are still watching or coming back, that you always do that single crochet in the very last stitch. Traditional single crochet. This is what your work is looking like. Looking good. So we're going to go ahead and clip our yarn and move on to our next row. Alright, so we're back and we are starting out our row. I'm already in that first stitch. And I've got my loop pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1. Then I'm going to go back down in that same exact stitch, dropping my tail. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to pull through all the loops on my hook to do my very first single crochet. Right there in my very first one. So now in this very next stitch, we're going to go ahead and do a double crochet drop down. So here's our next stitch. So we're going to come down here to this row below, slide right down, go ahead and pull up a loop, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And now in the next 4 stitches, we are going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go ahead and do our double crochet drop downs. So we're going to go ahead in the very next stitch, and we're going to do a double crochet drop down. So it's just a double crochet worked in that front loop from the previous row. So we're going to go ahead and do 2 more times, and we'll be moving on. Show you guys the repeat for your entire row here in just a moment. If you take a look, we've got a total of 5 for this section. So now we're going to do our back loop single crochet, and we're going to carry that on across, doing our back loop single crochet. In the next, it's going to be a total of 4 stitches, just like so. And now we're going to start doing our drop down again here, because we're here in the center of our pattern. So we're going to go ahead and do a drop down right here. It's our very next stitch. There's a double crochet drop down. Here is another double crochet drop down. Here is another double crochet drop down. This is our next stitch. We're dropping it down right here. There's number 4. You're going to have a total of 5 of those in these center sections. So just like that. And now we're going to have our single crochet in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to have 4 of those. Just like so. And then you're back to your repeat. You're going to do your 5 double crochet drop downs, and then each time they're going to be separated by 4 single crochet in the back loop only. And that's how you're going to work this entire row. So you're going to go ahead, pause the video here, and work on down, and we'll be meeting back up when you're ready to move on to your very next row. So we've got our single crochet here and already done traditional single crochet in the very first stitch. So now we're going to work our back loop only single crochets down for the next 6 stitches. So there's 1, here's number 2, here is number 3, number 4, number 5, and 6. So we've done 6 of our back loop single crochets. Now we're going to do 2 drop down double crochet. So right here in the 7th stitch, we're going to go in and do our double crochet. And we're also going to do one right directly beside that here in our 8th stitch as well. So that's what we're forming. Now we're going to go ahead and go and do our 6 back loop only single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry, you got to do 7 of them now that we're off the end of the row. So do 7. So the 7 is going to be your repeat. You're going to do 7 of those. And then in the 8th and 9th stitches, 8 and 9, we're doing our double crochet drop downs. Just like so. Now we're going to do our 7 single crochets in the back loop, and that's going to be your repeat. You're going to work in the same exact manner all the way down. I've got 4 of mine done. 5, 6, and 7. And then we're going to do 2 of our double crochet drop downs. 1 in each of the next 2 stitches, and then you're going to do your 7 single crochet in the back loop only, and continue on down in the exact same way all the way down the rest of your row.